so they aren't here tonight, but I'm going to record this part of it just to make sure they can see it. So the principles guiding our decision making are, first and foremost, is your health. We want to make sure your health is number one. And this is for our whole congregation. That the decisions are being made using the best information that we have at our disposal. You know, it changes daily. Today, I spent 2 hours listening to the EPA's webinar on airborne transmission and talking about droplet size and all these different very highly technical things. And so we're just listening, learning, trying to glean as much information as possible, making connections, knowing what questions to ask. This is not appropriate to us. We have not convened a Singer task force, but we have at the church. See, I edited this, not all of the way, apparently I missed one. At the church, we convened our COVID-19 task force, which includes people like Amy Pretty, who works for Park Nicollet in epidemiology, and Dave Rotz, and I forgive Kelly Rotz. Kelly works for MDH, Minnesota Department of Health, and she's been very involved in the things that have been put out for the schools. And Dave Rotz works in organizational planning, and then our pastoral staff and our facility staff and Cindy Folan looking at these protocols. So we're actually finalizing these things on a church-wide basis here in the next few weeks. And by finalize, I mean for the next 6 weeks. We're going to do it 6 weeks at a time. We'll remain nimble to adjust, and this is what I'm talking about. Rather than saying we're going to do something for the whole year, we're going to say we're going to do this for the next 6 to 8 weeks, and we're going to keep adjusting and adapting and announce the next 6 to 8 weeks of plans. And then the most important thing, I will honor whatever decision you think you need to make. Even the people who say, I don't want to sing online at all right now, it doesn't mean they're not a part of our a cappella choir family. But if someone just doesn't want to do it, I will ask. I will tell them why it's a good thing. And if they say no, that's your decision, and we move on and move forward and stay in touch with them. So just want you to know that. So here's the information that we know now. Performing arts activities have been found to create aerosols less than coughing, but more than conversational talking. And that was one of the things on the webinar today was there's some report that came out of Bristol, University of Bristol, talking about singing's no more dangerous than talking. And the scientists all kind of looked at each other and chuckled and said, well, yeah, if you're just singing lightly, it's not any more dangerous. But if you're singing vigorously, then you're going to be emitting more aerosols. But still, it's less than coughing, which is a good sign. The other thing that we've learned is that the particles that are emitted are comparable among the wind instruments, singing, and dramatic speech, and the way the particles accumulate over time and concentrate in a room over time. So the oboe is kind of an outlier. Some of the brass instruments have more problems at the onset of sound for different reasons, if you think about embouchure and stuff like that. But in general, all the wind instruments are in the same sphere. And you'll see this on this graph here, which looks at the release of aerosols, these airborne particles, and how they concentrate over a period of time. And what this shows is that if you look, just skip over to the bottom right to look at theater and singer, because that's what concerns us. Gigi, I know you play in the wind ensemble. We'll talk about that later. But when you look at theater and singing, the wonderful thing about us using our voices is now we have the benefit of when we put a mask on, we actually are controlling the particle emission right at the source, which is why wearing a mask has been proven to capture about 90% of the aerosols that we emit. So it's very true when we say we're wearing a mask to protect others more than to protect ourselves. We're capturing the particles at the source. And so you can see here how when someone was singing over a period of time without a mask versus with a mask, and then in the theater where when there's someone who's doing a dramatic oration or like a pastor who's fervently trying to convert people, right? You know, an evangelist who's really going at it, you can see what happens with no mask, but you put that mask on and immediately it mitigates the aerosols. So what this tells us is that, again, review, the emissions are comparable. While speaking, projecting the voice produces more particles in soft conversational talking, it does sound like singing. It's like singing when you speak loudly, but the most important thing is that use of a face mask dramatically reduces the particle emission. So it is important that face masks will be one part of our tool package or toolkit to returning to in-person singing. So now here's the 5 areas that I'm looking at with promoting health and safety. The first are some general protocols. So this would be true for church too. Some of the things that we're looking at are limiting the number of people on site at any given time. So if we're coming to sing, I'm not going to have the whole a cappella choir. We'll talk about what that looks like, but it's going to be a smaller group. And we're going to control how long we're on site. So if you want to socialize, I'm going to send you outside, right? If we're in that space, we've got to conserve that space for the aerosolization of the singing that we're doing. And then we've got to leave that room, which I'll talk about in a moment. We'll wear masks at all times. And that's the key thing. The moment you walk in, you got to have the mask on if we're going to engage in singing together. Just because we want to, even the speaking aerosols, we want to reduce any aerosol emission into the room so that we can lengthen the amount of time that we're making music together, or maximize the time that we have, I should say. We're going to maintain that minimum of 6 feet physical distancing when we're just gathering. You're going to see in a little while it'll be a little more when we're singing. We're not going to share foods or beverages. I just can't wait for the day to have a barbecue and have you all over and cook for you guys and all. That's one of my love languages, but we're just going to have to wait unless you're in the same bubble. So Paula and Andrew, you may share food and beverages. Keith and Karen, you may share food and beverages. Carla and, I'm going to get it wrong. Carla and Doug? No.
Mike.
Say it again.
Mike.
Sorry, I didn't see it. I'll get it memorized though. Hand sanitizer will be readily available. So I'll have some on site for you. And then we'll also have some 70% alcohol wipes so that you can wipe in to clean off the surface when you get there, and then to wipe on the way out. And we'll wipe doorknobs and things like that.
I thought we were just going to suck on them.
Okay. Let's see. General protocols. Illness, exposure, contact tracing. This is where it gets real fun. When in doubt, I ask you to sit it out. So one of the things we're going to talk about is a covenant that I'll share with you. And basically, it's just to alleviate fears. I know people have seasonal allergies and there's all kinds of things going on. And so I have a document that we'll share with you to look at that will help us to parse out when we should come if we're going to have a rehearsal and when you should just sit it out. And what I'll tell you is if you have to miss a rehearsal, I'll have it recorded if you were doing in person so that you can catch up on what we're missing. Like, I'm not going to punish you just because you're missing because you're trying to keep the rest of us healthy. But that's going to be our mantra. When in doubt, just sit it out. Exposure is a very specific term in the CDC and MDH world. Exposure is when you've come into close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19. And close contact means either you're within 6 feet of them for 15 minutes or more, you've shared food or beverages, you've exchanged some kind of physical touch, okay? That's what close contact is. So you can be in the same room with someone, but if you're wearing a mask and you've maintained physical distancing, you are not, and you're less than 15 minutes, you're not considered in close contact with them. So just understand that, and I put that in the covenant document you'll see. So if you do come to close contact, we're going to ask that you quarantine and sit out of Westwood activities for 2 weeks, with or without a test is actually how that works now as we've dug deeper into this. And this is one of the protocols we're putting in church-wide, not just with the choir. And then for the choir in particular, we're talking about this with the church. We'll see if people have an appetite to do it. I don't like doing lots of forms and stuff, but I think it's important. So I'm going to create some kind of a automated form, basically like a Google form that will come to you before rehearsal that when you're supposed to attend. And it's just a check sheet basically saying, I don't have a fever. I haven't experienced any new muscle pains that aren't the normal ones. You know, things like that so that we can give you the green light to attend rehearsal. And if something raises alarm, then I'll be in touch with you and we'll talk about it just to see if you should come or not. It seems like overkill, but if we're gonna dare to sing together, I think we need to take extra extremes just to make sure everyone feels that we're doing our best to maintain the safety. So I'm willing to do a little more. And perhaps the section leaders and the officers can assist with that. We're gonna have a meeting soon and we can talk about all of that stuff. So this is the covenant. And whether I'm going to ask you to sign the covenant or not will come up tomorrow at our meeting about COVID-19. All the other choirs that I work with, I've asked folks to look at this covenant and then to sign it. And it's just a way for us to say, and we're people of God, right? We're people of the church. We know what covenantal language is. This is just the way that we're going to interact with each other and honor each other and value each other for the common good, so that we can proceed with an abundance of caution together. So you'll see that. So masks. What type of masks? They just need to be well-fitting. The surgical style are the best. There's several different ones, and we can dig into that as we get into looking at singing again. So I'll answer mask questions later because we've been doing a lot of digging around, and Karen's been doing some of that too. So lots of knowledge there to share. Can be washable or disposable. The biggest thing is it just needs to stay secure on your face while singing. We've all put the mask on that every time we move our mouth, it moves up and down. You know, we've just got to make sure the nose is covered at all times and the mouth is covered and there's no gaps on the sides there, that it's really tight fitting. And as I said before, masks should be worn prior to entering the room and the full time you're in the room, and we don't talk or sing without the mask on. Here's another slide about masks coming next here, once it decides to cooperate with me. And so you can see just a little more. I won't read all of this to you, but what constitutes a well-fitting mask versus a poor-fitting mask. And yes, you can see here, Gigi, we were talking about this via email. The recommendation, and all of these recommendations are coming from the Performance Aerosolization Study, which was conducted here in the United States between a facility in Boulder, Colorado, and then another one in the University of Maryland, College Park there. And this is the only study in our country looking at performing arts activities, dance and theater and singing and music, right? And so we're asking all instrumentalists, all musicians to wear masks. So brass players are putting a slit in the mask and playing with the mask on, and they're putting different types of fabric and things over the bells of their instruments as well to try to mitigate emissions. They have to have two masks because they can't use their instrument mask when they're not playing their instrument because it has a slit in it, right? That would be a problem. The other thing we need to think about is the rooms that we're in and ventilation. So airflow. Outdoors best, and so if we get going right away, we could use, if we have a small enough group, we could use the courtyard. We could use that little bungalow where the kids hang out on the way to the lake. My family and I explored that and explored the lake this weekend. Back outside of door number 2, you know, the roundabout outside the sanctuary doors. There's all kinds of spaces we could explore outdoors at the church, right? And if you're singing into the wind, that's the best way to go, not with the wind at your back. But when we're indoors, because we are in Minnesota, we know that we need to be indoors. And I should also say, our sanctuary, when you open those doors to the courtyard, there's another mechanism there of drawing outdoor air in. So we have a lot of things at our advantage at Westwood. Indoors, we need to be concerned with filtration and, you know, what's going on with our HVAC system. And so you should know that we're already doing this work. Dan, our facility superintendent, is working with our HVAC specialists, and we're getting the balance on each room, which is the air exchange rate in each room. That's how long it takes the system to cleanse the air, to purify the air. And once we get that number, that will give us the information that we need for a very important piece of the puzzle that I'll come to in a moment about rehearsing. We have invested in something called a bipolar ionization system, not biopolar, but just bipolar ionization system. And that's a great way, again, to speed up the process of turning the air over, but it also really does a great job of cleaning out a lot of those fine, small particles, droplets that are emitted. So what we are promising at the church is that we're not going to use the rooms that we can't assure you that they meet industry standard or exceed it, and that we can't do something to the system. We're just going to keep those rooms closed. We did just get a proposal back on a lot of rooms, including our choir room, which I was surprised that we could do more in there, but we do have some possibilities in there. So while I don't see us singing in there, the choir room might be a room that we could use for some activity in the time being. But we're going to figure out which rooms we're using and which rooms are just going to stay closed for the time being. and really invest our money in making sure the ventilation is as great as possible, maximizing airflow in the spaces that we intend to use. We want to draw on as much outside air as possible, as much natural air to turn that system over. So this is where the length of singing comes in. So all of our rehearsals in person are going to be a lot shorter. We're looking at not singing more than 30 minutes at a time, which means for us as church choir, if we come to a rehearsal, we're probably going to gather for about 45 to 50 minutes. You know, we come in, we get going, we'll do some light humming, and then 25 minutes of singing. And then we need to leave that space that we're in if we're indoors. So we need to leave the room to let the particles disperse, let the system do its work, and then we could come back in. And this is where the air exchange rate is helpful, because if it turns over 6 times an hour, right, then that means it's turning over every 9 to 10 minutes. And so we could come back in there in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, those 3 changes of the air cycle, and get back in and sing again. If it only turns over once an hour, then that means we've got to let that room sit for at least an hour, if not longer, before it's safe to go back in that space. And so that's one of the things we're looking at. Sure, we could move to another space, and I suppose that can happen, but I'm going to be pretty cautious with this and plan so that we're singing, like I said, about 30 minutes, and that's it in the start here. Physical distancing. 6 feet is what they've said, and we've heard that over and over. I'm still not convinced that's enough for singing, and so we know the aerosol cloud goes up to 6 feet, that 1.5 to 2 meters perhaps, and so I'm going to keep us beyond that. You've already seen my little cones that I use at the Rock for worship, and so we would use those, and when you arrive, I would have it set up where you're going to stand, and I would have measured it out. I wear size 12 shoes, so it's perfect. And so I would measure it out so that you're 10 or more feet apart in all directions, and have you staggered so that you're not sending your particles and your airflow directly into someone else. And I do carry a pool noodle with me, a 5-foot pool noodle. And so if you get too close, I will whack you in love. Maybe not with adults, but I do with kids. So here's what our model is going to look like. If we come in person, we're going to form some chamber groups. Now, when I say chamber groups, it doesn't mean that like it's an official chamber group, but let's say if 16 people wanted to do in-person singing and it just happened to work out where, you know, there's 2 tenors, 2 altos, 2 sopranos, 2 basses in each of those, and I'd be like, hey, let's do 2 octets. And we figure out a rotation for those octets to do in-person rehearsing. Everyone would do the online rehearsals together, so the whole family's together here on Zoom. And we can do the things that we've been doing together, these synchronous rehearsals, as well as things like song along to make tracks for worship. But then the in-person folks, we would have time, and we'd figure out when that time would be. Is it on Wednesday? Is it on Sunday? That's to be determined once we know who's interested, how we make that work. Would then come in at scheduled times to have these rehearsals where we be distanced with our mask on. And, you know, we work on 1 to 4 selections, you know, over the course of the next few months. And when something's ready, we put it into worship. You know, we wouldn't be shooting for the most challenging repertoire, but we would choose things that are meaningful and appropriate for a small group, and that would fit the theme of faithful imagination that's coming for this fall. So with that, I'm going to send you a survey here this week. It's going to be really short and sweet, and basically it's just, you know, I'm interested in returning to in-person singing, or no, I just want to sing online, or thanks for the Zoom memories, but I don't want to do this at all anymore, you know, and then we'll kind of figure out who's doing what and make our plan to move forward from there. So there's a lot more details that I can tell you, but I thought that was just a good overview so you can kind of see, you know, what the path is to returning to in-person singing. So if anyone has a question, feel free to, you know, raise your hand and then unmute yourself, and I'm happy to answer it. Just be careful, because I know enough to be very dangerous with this stuff. Just enough to be very dangerous, you know, with all the stuff I've been following. Yeah, Dave?
Can you make this presentation available to us?
Absolutely. So I've recorded that presentation part and this question answer, and I will make it available. I'll find a way. Either I'll put it on YouTube and give you a private link to it,
Okay.
or send it.
I was just gonna, if I could get the PowerPoint, that would be fine too, or whatever you used.
Got it. I can
Okay.
send you PDFs of the slides.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Like, unanswered questions, things that you felt weren't addressed that might be on your mind. I'm following my process because what I really want to say is, okay, how many of you after hearing that really want to get back to singing? But don't show me anything. Like, I really want to follow the process and let you have time to think about it, and then maybe on that survey there will be a space where you can ask other questions. So if you want to save those and ask me in private, I respect that and understand that too. Again, now that you can see my face, hey, yes. Go ahead and unmute yourself there.
Find that.
We're muted.
Oh,
There you
we're
go.
muted. Sorry, we're mute.
Now you're not. I can hear you
Okay.
now.
Where will we find the survey? You're
So
gonna.
I'm gonna send it out via the email or
Okay.
the mail
Okay,
merge.
good.
It
Okay.
probably won't come out until tomorrow.
Okay.
'Cause I'm a little wiped out tonight and I've got to get the worship videos finished. So I'm gonna do that, but I'll get it to you before Friday. And we've got a little time, as I said, because we probably wouldn't start in-person activity until the middle of September at the earliest, once we've got the protocols in place at the church. Because right now our policy at the church is we're not doing outside activity other than funerals and weddings. And so that'll change soon once the protocols are in place. Anything? I'm going to scroll down in the chat, make sure I haven't missed anything. Yep, and thank you, Karen, for dropping the study in there. Because I was going to say there's the whole webinar. You can watch the hour and 17 minutes of that one. And then there's some new information now that's come out since that presentation on August 6th. Everybody okay? Fabulous. Okay, that was easy. Are there any other prayer requests before we kind of begin to wrap up tonight? As I said, I'm going to prepare to show you a little bit of how When Morning Gilds the Skies turned out without any editing. So you can see where that stands right now on our way out. Any other prayer requests? So we're thinking about the folks down in the path of the hurricane. Absolutely. Especially Paul's family. We're thinking about the family of Jacob Blake, the gentleman in Kenosha, Wisconsin, who was shot. And so everyone involved in that situation and just our country as a whole. And, people in communities who feel that they're not seen and heard, that we keep those folks in our thoughts and our minds and our conscious awareness that we all can be the change makers in our situations and circumstances too. Obviously our health professionals and our teachers and our students and our parents and our administrators and all the decision makers, because there's a lot of heavy decisions that have to be made right now. Other folks that you all want to lift up for prayer concerns? I'm going to go to my other screen because I may be missing someone. No. So this is where Zoom drives me crazy, because I feel like I'm at a funeral now, because it's just like deathly quiet. Even Lydia got quiet. So let me see some smiles on your faces at least, so I know you are all like in good spirits. And like, I know that was heavy stuff that we were talking about there, but all of a sudden it's just like the energy feels.
Well, I think you're just an inspiration for all of us.
Are we muted?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And we'll see what you think when you actually have to be in the same room with me. It's a great way to start, right? But it's so different. But I am grateful to you all for being gracious and just jumping in and just saying, let's be bold and adventurous, right? Let's go these paths untrodden and try this thing in this year. So thank you to you for your grace-filled welcome, because I really do feel like part of the family already, and I'm excited about what's to come for us. So Heather, thanks for joining us tonight. And now I'm going to let you see a little bit of the backside here. So we did is this just our second one? I guess it is our second project on Song Along. And we're going to do many more of these. We're getting the system to the place where we're almost ready to share it with more people. So I thank each of you who've had the time to work on the platform and submit something, because everything that you sent me, like every response, every issue, is something that we've talked about. In fact, we had Karen on yesterday and we were going through what was the problem with her project, with her system. And that was very helpful for us. So once I find the right link, I'm going to let you hear When Morning Gilds the Skies. I'm just going to have to log in. I apologize. I didn't prepare this tonight, so I'm caught off guard here.
Philip, can I fill the dead air while you're doing that?
You can.
I should have spoken up earlier, but I did put another thing in the chat. It's a link to a video about how to make a surgical mask fit better. And I've been sharing this with people, and every time I do, like, you know, with my faculty, staff friends, someone's always like, oh my gosh, that's great. So now I want to tell everyone I know. So if you watch that video, it tells you how to tie it in a certain way. And I won't go through all that, but basically once you do that, it fits really well on the side of the face and doesn't gap like you see. So when Phillip says that they are recommending the surgical style mask, oh, thank you, spotlighted me. You can see how well that fits differently than when you just wear it like a rectangle. It's also great for fitting them on kids better. And so Phillip said that the surgical style mask is the one that's recommended. And then Phillip, I actually had a question for you on that topic. I mean, like what we're getting in the store is probably not medical grade, but it is surgical style. Is your understanding that it's okay that it's not medical grade as long as it's surgical style? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, they're saying the style more than the grade. Okay. And there is a body of research out there saying that even the least effective ones operate at 60 to 64% efficiency in mitigating aerosols, which turns into like 80% of the aerosols are covered. So basically they're saying it's better than nothing in a good way. It's better than the bandanas and all that stuff. And I'll share with you Martha Graber at Central St. Paul. She worked with the Public Good, I think is the name of the company, and they have some, not N95s, but it has another letter there. And so they're like the N95s that the medical professionals wear.
KN95s, yes.
Yeah, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's something you may be interested in. So I'll share that with you, just for you. Paula, you may be interested in that too, because I know at Bethel you may be walking away from the singer's mask. So no one go out and buy a $40 singer's mask. You see those out there, they're not testing well right now. And so we're shying away from those right now, just in case you're wondering. So you don't need to spend a lot of money on a mask. I'll just tell you that. All right, so I did get my screen up, and what's happening now is, I'll even let you see it, the video is rendering again because 2 more people submitted. And look at there, just in time, there it is. Oh, it's my friend Mike. Perfect. Mike is one of the founders of Song Along. He's one of the ones who made it happen. So let me make sure I shared my audio. There we are. Now I did.
Are you on this?
Yes, I should be.
Okay, here it comes. So there's no organ yet.
When morning gilds the skies, my heart awaiting cries, may Jesus Christ be praised. When evening shadows fall, this rings my curfew call. May Jesus rise.
by the way, I tested it with the organ, and it does work with the organ. It's synced up beautifully. And here it comes.
Sing silent stars of space, sing all who sing God's praise, sing Jesus Christ be praised, God's whole creation knows, today and evermore, shall Jesus Christ be praised.
So it's funny. It was so good, and then something happened in the last verse. And Paula, I don't know what happened to your connection. My suspicion is someone sent you an email or something, and your computer had a little glitch for a moment, and so you got one beat behind everybody at the end. So I was like, "Who is that?" I was like, "Oh, it's Paula." There's no way she would be rhythmically off like that. So you know, these are the things that kind of to work out on a system. I can line that up though before Sunday, so don't worry.
No, we're
It won't be
unmuted.
there. But I think that's really cool that I didn't do anything. Like all I did was push the button to render it, and it's that close, you know? So it's like the system is a lot better than it was last time already. Ruth?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
You said in your instructions that we should all have headphones or earbuds, and it didn't look like people all did.
Some people have just the buds in their ears where you can't see them.
They had
But-
one of these. Okay.
But there, you could still hear some sound seeping through. Did you notice that at the beginning? You could hear some of my instructions. So I'm trying to figure out if there's something we can do on the platform side to, you know, minimize some of that as well. So again, we're still tweaking. Like it's system 0.3 now. We haven't even got to system 1.0 yet. But it's really exciting that we get to test this.
I have a question.
Yeah, Jenny.
My wife thought that she had a successful submission, yet it didn't appear.
Huh.
And is there any way to find out if something is successful or there's a problem and we did something wrong?
Yes, you can. And I'm scrolling through right now. What
I
color
only-
were you wearing, Denny?
I only
okay.
saw 12 people singing, and you said that there were 24 or more than 12. I don't know. I know it said done, and I didn't think there was anything else to do about the recording, but I didn't see myself.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Yes, I also did not see myself, and I thought I had successfully recorded.
And who is that?
Marilyn.
Yeah, neither one of you in my submission. So let me show you what I'm seeing now. I don't have to hide anything. So when it says 24, that's all of my practice tracks that I made for you too. So every track that's made goes into this grid, and it should come to me. So I'm looking, and because some people logging in as guests right now, I don't see the names, but I'm looking at faces. So
Oh, yeah.
these are all the tracks that came to me. But it's good to know that some of you thought you had a successful one, because that means we need to do something on the platform side to let you know that it was successfully submitted. Like there needs to be some kind of confirmation.
Can I interject here?
Yeah, Patricia.
It sounds like, I mean, Kay said, she said it said done, but I think you need to click on that and then you need to click on something else.
You do have to click the done, which will submit it. But if you, you have to go to the right and click on the done. So let me go in the other side here, everybody. Hang on one second.
I thought I did.
I thought you just said it said done and you thought it was done.
So if you go in this side here, like this is what you all would see, right?
Right.
And then you get there. So yeah, once you record, so I'm going to record right now. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to let it think I'm doing it.
Hi, Sopranos. This is the introduction right now. Here's your starting pitch when you come in.
Okay, so I'm going to say done. So I have to click the done. And then it should show something here. And I just don't remember what it says. Yeah, thank you for your submission. Do you remember seeing that?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay. you might not have clicked the done because it does say done, but then you need
Uh-huh.
to click it. So
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's the issue.
Okay,
okay,
yeah,
maybe we need to change that to click here to submit or something. Or
Something
Yeah.
better.
yeah, it wasn't clear.
got it. That must be what it was. And Marilyn, maybe the same thing happened to you too.
Probably.
So you let me know, like if you want to do it again real fast and we get off the call, I can wait until later before I work on the project and finish it up later tonight. Or if it doesn't matter that much, I'll use
No
it as
problem.
is.
No problem. It sounded good.
Should we be
Thanks.
creating an account rather than just using guest?
Eventually, yeah, if you want to go ahead and do that, you can. I think I didn't want to make you do it at first because I wasn't sure how close we were, but I think we're really close to be able to use this regularly. And it seems to be pretty intuitive for most of you. You're having a good experience with it.
So I would say that the people that submitted it as guests would come up to you as anonymous.
Correct.
Okay.
And then I can click on that video and I can tell who it is then. Yeah.
So are you saying that you can still get more if we, because like now my voice is pretty warmed up.
Yeah, you can do it right now.
No.
I won't look at it again until 10 o'clock tonight. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Because I didn't successfully complete it.
So if you want to throw it in, go for it, but don't mess it up. I'm just kidding.
Well, if I mess it up, you won't see it.
I was totally kidding. Thank you all for this time tonight. We went about 5 minutes over, but I felt like it was good energy there, and I appreciate you all joining me. And so be on the lookout for the survey on Thursday, and then the next project, Joyful, coming out on Friday. And then for sometime next week, I'll go ahead and put Your Will Be Done up too, and you'll have longer to do that as well. All right, so take it away. I still haven't gone down the choir room yet to double check and see what it looks like. I've been in the church 3 times, but I haven't gone downstairs. So, sigh, I know.
Everyone on mute and we'll start. Bless us, O Lord.
Servants who
Work
work
in
in
this
the
place.
place.
What we sing
What we sing in our
lips,
lips, and we believe in our hearts, and what we believe in our hearts,
we show forth in our lives. Through Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
All
night.
right. Thanks, Heather, for joining us. Night.
Thank you for letting me come.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So where's your cabin, Denny and
Oh.
Kay?
We're up by, let me see, got to unmute? Yeah. We're up by Aiken, about 2 hours north up 169.
Okay. I
So,
know it. I've driven through there before. Yeah.
We're about an hour north of Malacca.
That's what I was going to say. It's close to when I used to visit Michelle. That was our stop
Yeah.
in the area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's been a great place to hang out this summer.
For sure.
I'm sure it has been.
Yeah.
Good. Well, enjoy your time there. And everybody else, thanks for being on tonight. You all take care of yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Philip.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Right.